everybody comes in, welcome to session 2. For those of you live and for those of you that are watching this online, we are going to move right into session 2 tonight. Now, I know that the lighting is going to sometimes be affected, as is the audio, because you guys are watching a recorded session, or you're watching it online in a live session, or however you're viewing this. It would be, it's a little challenging to get the lighting situation perfect. So just don't mind that. I want you guys to be able to see the PowerPoint. I want everybody to be able to see the PowerPoint. So I will turn off lights, I will turn lights back on, I will do whatever to make that more visual and just better. I also am wearing this little voice amplifier, so this will hopefully make my voice to where it is able to be heard throughout the group room and to the live online sessions. All right. Hopefully I don't drop this tonight. Okay. So we are in session 2 of the 20 hours of treatment. So you guys have already completed your 16-hour DUI education, and it's time to move into your treatment part of this. So the way this goes is we're going to have probably a total of 10 sessions, like I said last time. 10 sessions, and there will be videos and there will be worksheets. Now the videos that we watch live here, obviously nobody here has to worry about it. But anybody who's watching it live online, your videos will be specifically embedded into your session. And in order to move forward to your next session, you'll have to watch everything from start to finish. And you'll have to complete your at least review your PDF worksheet files. And we do these in class, so you guys will have access to those. You can just open them up. If you want to print them out for yourself, please go forward. Everybody here has a printed copy, and we work on them during session. So if you want to go ahead and print it out, it's excellent to do for your treatment. So for those of you watching it online, print it out, get into this. This is how we really make changes in our life. This is how we really apply the treatment, and we just really make it work, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to dim this light so we have a better view. Let me see. It's definitely, if I make it dark in here, it's going to be very dark. So I might just leave it as it is. But what I wanted to know is, if I know everybody in here can see it because it's presented on, this is a PowerPoint, and the projection is designed for PowerPoint. So it's designed for a lighted area. But I don't know if it's going to be as well seen on the online part. But you know what? It's okay. This is just strictly visual. This is just something for you guys to have, something for me to look at and to be able to go off of. This isn't anything that you need necessarily for your treatment. The PowerPoints are just so we can all look at something and know where we're at within the session. So I'll leave the light on, and hopefully it'll all work out for that way. All right. So how do relationships affect alcohol and substance use and abuse? So when we look at why a person might be struggling with some type of an addiction, whether it's alcohol or substance related, we have to also look at the relationship part of it. They could be having issues within their relationships, within their family, within their parents, within colleagues at work, right? Within their significant other relationships. Maybe they're married, maybe they're dating somebody. So we have to really examine, when we're working on ourselves, we have to really examine our relationships, and we have to really understand how alcohol and or substances will affect those relationships, and how relationships will affect our alcohol and substance use, okay? So if we're in an unhealthy relationship, or we're having some type of a relationship issue or conflict, more than likely that's going to affect our specific addiction, whether it's with alcohol or substances. So as we talked about in session 1, the different communication styles, it's amazing to know that there's so many individuals that communicate in a way that is not only unhealthy, but creates major barriers to their relationships, right? So when we look at somebody who has a passive communication style, like we learned last time in our last session, we learned that that individual is not speaking what they truly want. They're not only not speaking what they truly want, they're basically doing everything they don't want, right? So that just creates such a barrier in their relationship, right? It just creates so many individual problems for them, and then it creates burdens on the relationship too, okay? And the aggressive communication, we know that that is one that is very off-putting. Somebody who has an aggressive communication style seems very mean, right? It can be called rude. All sorts of adjectives could describe the person who has an aggressive communication style. So we definitely just want to make sure that we are learning how to communicate effectively. We are being cognizant, so we're being present and aware about our communication style. And we're applying the healthy communication styles that we're learning to our relationships. And that way we can talk better, we can speak with our loved ones better, we can use better nonverbal communication so we seem approachable. If we do have an issue, we're able to voice that issue in a healthy way. If we can't say yes or we don't want to say yes, we're able to say no because we're always going to, we want to give our best yes, right? And we can't give our best yes when we're always saying yes to things we don't want to do. So remember, in order to give your best yes, sometimes you're going to have to say no, all right? So a passive aggressive, like we learned last week, or last session rather, is, not for everybody, it's not always last week. If you're online or you're watching live, it could have been just earlier. But our last session we learned about passive aggressive, which is where somewhere in between. You have somebody who doesn't speak what they want, and then when they do get super upset, they are very loud and they are very angry, right? So again, poor communication style. Now, nonverbal communication also is obviously a way in which we communicate. So when you're sitting with your arms crossed, or you're sitting in a way that looks like you don't want to be there, or you're closed your eyes when somebody's talking, there's all sorts of nonverbal ways to show somebody you're not interested in the way that what they're saying. There's also very good ways with our nonverbal communication that we can show somebody that we are interested in what they have to say. So we really have to pay attention to the way we speak and to the way we're not speaking. And that's how we build ourselves to have better, healthy communication in relationships. So we definitely want to work on the assertive. Remember, you want to speak nicely, you want to be empathic, you want to be respectful, and you also want to make sure that you're talking and sharing what you want as well. You don't necessarily always have to do what everybody else wants to do. So you want to make sure that you're doing what you want to do as well. Okay, good. So now we're going to move into something called conflict resolution. What is conflict resolution? Well, let's take both of the words. Conflict would mean when you're not getting along with something, right? Something's happening. And then resolution is when you resolve. So we want to look at how we resolve an issue that has, some type of a conflict, okay? So conflict resolution. Learning the correct methods needed to create and facilitate a peaceful ending to any sort of conflict that was presented. Okay? That's what conflict resolution is. We want to find a peaceful resolution. Okay? Now, conflict resolution and recovery is going to be very similar. Obviously, it doesn't matter where you're at. If you're in recovery or you're at work or you're at home, you want to find that peaceful resolution no matter where you are. And in recovery, it's the same thing. We want to make sure that we are finding a way to resolve any type of conflict, whether we're in a 12-step meeting, or we're in a group like we are now, or we're at home, whatever it is. If we're in recovery, we want to make sure we know how to solve a conflict and create something peaceful on a regular basis, okay? That's where it comes in. It's very well done. At the end of the day, we can say everything's very well done when we have been able to resolve a conflict that perhaps we couldn't do before. That's what's so amazing about treatment, and that's what's so cool about working on yourself, is you get to learn how to do things that you never really did before. And it's okay to say, hey, you know what? Maybe before I wasn't the coolest in communication. I totally sucked at talking. I totally sucked about listening and reflective listening and understanding what my friends were saying. But that's not who I am anymore, right? I don't want to be that person anymore. This DUI has changed my life. That's what you should be saying. This DUI has completely changed my life. It was a crappy thing that happened. It wasn't my best choice, right? But I'm going to make something amazing out of it. And that's what you can do now. You can turn this bad into something good. It happens all the time. I see it all the time. I've been doing this, like I said in our first session, I've been doing this for it seems like forever, okay? the end of the world, but man, has it opened up some amazing opportunities. And it has opened up doors to where they never really understood before where they were lacking in communication or what they were doing wrong. And now all of a sudden they're taking this education and they're doing their treatment and they're learning so much about themselves. And that's what makes this amazing. And so I'm so excited, as I was last week, as I'm going to be every session. I'm excited because you guys are all going to learn something about yourself. And you're going to be able to apply it, and it's going to create better relationships. You're going to have better, healthier and better boundaries. If you don't have boundaries now, you're going to learn how to create them. You're going to learn coping skills. You're going to learn so much. And you're also going to learn powerful conflict resolution. And no matter if you're in recovery or you're continuing to maybe you're a social drinker, you're going to learn good conflict resolution skills. So we definitely want to make sure that we are more cognizant about our reactions when we have a conflict. So let's say you do have a conflict with somebody, okay? You have a conflict with somebody and you're sitting there and you're talking and they're talking and you're really being made aware that what you're saying. That's being cognizant. It's being present. It's being right in the moment, right now, understanding what you are saying, how you're responding, right? And the things that you're not saying. So you're being completely aware and completely present in that moment. Even if it's a conflict, you're still there, you're controlling what you're saying, you're not raising your voice, you're not like throwing your arms in the air, you're not throwing things and slamming doors, you're remaining present. It's important. You want to understand your own reaction to this, okay? So you want to make sure that if you're sitting there and you catch yourself, and you're like rolling your eyes, right, because you're seriously irritated, or maybe you are getting mad, maybe the other person really isn't making a lot of sense. Maybe they are at fault, maybe you didn't do anything wrong. You still can control how you respond, okay? So no matter what happens, you're in control of you. They're in control of them, you're in control of you. Don't ever, ever let them think that you've lost control, because you haven't. You definitely have not. So understand your own reactions to the conflict. Understand how you're presenting yourself. Stay in that moment, stay focused. And of course, strengthen your impulse control. If you're not familiar with what impulse control is your ability basically at that moment to not do something maybe crazy or something that you shouldn't be doing. So we can see impulse control in just about everything, right? The way we spend our money, what we eat, how we respond to conflict. So we want to keep our impulses in control. If you get angry, if you feel yourself festering, if you're super upset, you do not have to respond like that. You still can remain calm, you still can remain present. Now this doesn't just happen overnight. None of us woke up and were like, hey, I love being in an argument where I'm right and the other person's wrong, but yet I just let them win, right? None of us done that. We had to really practice this. We had to really learn how to make the best out of a conversation. And what you can also apply to this conflict resolution is the understanding that you're in treatment. You're getting help for certain situations in your life. Not everybody is though. You know, your mom, your dad, your wife, your husband, your brother, your sister, your best friend, they're not necessarily getting treatment like you are. They're not learning these things. So while you're learning them and you're understanding them, they're not. So just remember that. It's also a part of being empathic and understanding that we might not be on the same page with everybody because we're doing some things for ourselves right now, right? We're learning more about ourselves. We're applying new skills and stuff. So we are going to be different. We're going to be changed, and it's good. It's a change for the better. So be present when you communicate. Very important. Stay in the now. Don't start thinking about what this person said yesterday or last week, or start getting even more angry and completely frustrated because they did the same thing a couple weeks ago and you can't believe they're doing it again. Just stay in the moment. Stay in this present conflict, okay? You want to know your own struggles and concerns, basically your own baggage when working on this, okay? So remember, even though we are in treatment, we still have baggage that we're kind of carrying around, right? We have things in our past. Everybody does. I do too. We all have things that we have to learn and that we have to understand about ourselves and that we have to heal, you know? I am doing a lot of healing for myself. I have some physical illness that I'm working on healing, and it's not just the physical aspect that I have to work on healing. You know, I've been doing a lot of other things as far as healing goes because I do consider myself holistic in the sense that I take a broader approach to things. You know, I look at what's going on in my mind, what's going on with what I'm eating, what am I doing on a daily basis, am I getting enough rest? You know, there's all sorts of things that apply to my healing and wellness. So we all have to do it, okay? So just remember, when you're in these conflicts or you're trying to resolve this, there's so much going on now that we have to understand, and we are healing. We are getting better. So how does conflict arise? So many different ways, right? Conflict can arise because we don't agree on something. Conflict can arise because maybe we did something wrong. Conflict can arise because maybe we made a mistake. So many reasons why conflict can arise. And so it's okay. It's okay that conflict arises. It's how we deal with it, right? That's what matters. So conflicts happen obviously at home. They can happen between friends. They can happen at work. Gosh, conflicts can happen in a store with people you don't know, in parking lots. How often, and just raise your hand, how often are you driving and somebody maybe turns without a turn signal, and that just creates a spark inside you, right? You get frustrated, you get angry, you don't understand, and yet you can't even do anything because they're not even in the same car. It's amazing how worked up we can get ourselves, you know? When really, if we could just understand that I get it, it's annoying when people do things like that. But really getting upset and getting frustrated and yelling and screaming, all that does is create a bad, not even an energy, I'm not talking about energy, it just creates a bad environment for our body, okay? Hostility, I mean, read the research out there, you guys. There is research that talks about people who have type A personalities, people who have angry personalities, even people who are passive, the different types of sicknesses, heart disease, cardiovascular stuff going on, that they are that's more prevalent among that type of personality. So just remember that, because you don't have to get that worked up. We really don't have to get that worked up. We really don't. Again, they might do something that makes us mad, but we're in control of how we respond to it. We are always in control of how we respond to it. Conflict can escalate. Obviously, if you've ever been in a fight or you've ever been in a heated argument with somebody you love and care about, that's when conflict's escalating. And it's very important to understand that conflicts that escalate can become serious, they can become scary, they can become dangerous. So remember, again, we only are able to control ourselves. We have to make sure that we're applying our skills. We have to make sure we're doing stuff, because if we want to be our best self, then we have to be in control of what we're doing. And you know what, I'm just going to throw this out there, and you might not be somebody that's in recovery, you might not feel you need sobriety, maybe you don't, I don't know. But you're not going to be in control of yourself when you're intoxicated, or when you have, even if you've used a prescription medication that has tendencies to, to create sedation, or, other types of things. So even medication, prescribed medication, can cause us to be more tired and maybe not on our best day, right? We might not be able to do what we want to do because that medication has caused us to be more drowsy. So maybe you smoked some marijuana, or you snorted some cocaine, or you drank a few beers. You're not going to have control. I know you feel that you do, but you definitely don't. That substance has now affected the different parts, just like you learned in our education. It's affected you differently. It's affected the central nervous system. It's affecting digestive systems. It's affecting our respiratory system. It's affecting us, okay? And because it's affecting all of us as a whole, we're not going to be in control of ourselves. So just remember that. So if you are using, or you're drinking, or you might be just getting high, just having fun, you are probably more apt to have an escalation in your conflict. It's not unusual for that to happen. Now, this is so interesting because a lot of people feel like, well, if I ignore it, it'll just go away. And you know what? Sometimes maybe it does. Maybe it will finally go away. If you've been trying to avoid a phone call, and you just keep blowing it off, and finally the person's like, I'm not going to call them anymore. Sometimes if you ignore it long enough, it goes away. But guess what? In a relationship of where a person you're going to see later on today, tomorrow, in your marriage, if you're living with a sibling or a best friend, in a regular relationship, ignoring the conflict is not going to solve anything. So we want to make sure that we are addressing the conflict, that we are looking at what's going on there, and that we're not ignoring it, because ignoring it is definitely not going to be the best route. So even if it's challenging, even if it's hard, even if it's something you don't want to necessarily talk about, maybe you'd like to blow it off, just remember that ignoring it is not going to be very positive. It's not going to create a positive outcome. And I'll tell you something too. If you ignore it, remember that the next time a new conflict happens, this old conflict is more likely going to manifest as well. Especially if you have somebody in the relationship that does remember things and feels like they didn't get to resolve it, and they're upset about that. So now they're upset about something new, plus what happened before, okay? So ignoring conflict is never, never beneficial. Even if you have to say, hey, you know what, tonight I'm feeling heated, or I drank a couple beers tonight, I don't feel I'm on my best, I'm not on my best behavior tonight. Let's talk about this in the morning. And you guys should go and you make a written note, a promise to each other, written down. We're gonna talk about this tomorrow. And maybe you make a couple notes, you know. What is it that's conflicting you? If you don't feel like you can take care of it tonight or right now, please move forward. Go ahead. Write it down. Do it at a different time. But just make sure you address it, okay? And when you're addressing it, apply your new skills that you're learning. Be aware. Be present in it. Be cognizant of how you're acting, how you're behaving, what you're saying, how your body language is being read from the other individual. Are you being empathic? Are you being respectful? These are all ways in which we want to make sure we're communicating effectively with, okay? So conflict resolution techniques. Avoidance, accommodating, dominating, collaborating, and compromise. These are all different ways in which we somehow resolve conflict. Not saying all of them are good, but this is often how conflict is resolved. So avoidance. Sometimes individuals, they want to avoid conflict at all costs. There's some people out there that don't like that, that don't want to be faced with somebody who might be angry or upset, okay? And they avoid that, all right? There's an accommodating. There could be a person that maybe wants to make sure that the conflict is completely resolved, and they'll do anything to make it resolved, right? They're going to do whatever it takes to where this conflict is just done and over with, even if it means that their part of the issue isn't resolved. Dominating, a dominating person, similar to our communication styles. Dominating can seem a little bit overpowering and angry, an individual that just seems like they are upset about something, right? Collaborating, okay? Compromise. That's where we want to look at. When we compromise and we collaborate, we come together in the disagreement and in the conflict, and we really work together to resolve that conflict. So there we have conflict resolution, right? We have to compromise. We're not always going to get our way, and it's okay that we don't always get our way. Sometimes getting our way isn't even the best way. Sometimes you can look back on life and you can say, I'm so glad I didn't get my way that time, right? You know, that can happen in the dating field. You know, if you really liked somebody, maybe, and a couple of years later, you're looking back and you're like, wow, I am so glad that didn't happen. Because now when I look back in retrospect, that wouldn't have been the best case scenario for me. So compromise can be a very powerful tool in conflict resolution. So we want to make sure that we are applying that well. Collaborating, coming together, making sure that we are in our best relationships. So now I'm not saying to stay in an unhealthy relationship and learn how to compromise and learn how to collaborate with an unhealthy individual. That's definitely not what I'm telling you to do. If you are ever, or you find yourself in a relationship where it's dangerous, or you're being abused verbally, physically, sexually, anything like that going on, please know that is not healthy. And that is never something that I would suggest you stay in and that you learn how to communicate in. Now, if you're in a relationship like that and you do want to stay, it is my hope and my clinical opinion that you really should probably step away from the situation, get professional help for you and the other individual, and while you're getting professional help, keep yourself safe. So if you are living with an abusive individual, I suggest getting to a safe place. And again, if you want to work on that relationship and you have hope for that relationship and the other individual is saying they want to get better, then you guys can do that at a place where you meet and you collaborate, right? You come together with a person that's going to help you professionally, and you're in a safe location. And you can't get hurt there. No matter what, you're not getting hurt there verbally or sexually or physically, because if you were, somebody else is going to see it. There's a witness, and they're going to call and get you help. So please know. And if this is happening to you, you do not have to say it. It's okay not to talk about it. Come to me personally. Call me. Reach out to me. I have resources. There's so many resources out there. So please don't think that you have to stay in a poor relationship. When you're getting healthy, And we're gonna learn this as our sessions go on, especially when we get to our family sessions later on. But when you're getting healthy, it's kind of a challenge for people that love you because they don't know that side of you. Now, they have to step up and they have to get healthy too, because even though they might not have an addiction to alcohol or substances, they might have some type of enabling behavior and they might function well when you're sick or when you're stuck in your addiction. And again, it's all part of the dynamic of the addiction, and it's something we have to learn how to work with, and we have to learn how to break those cycles. But everybody involved has to do that. So it's a brand new learning experience for everybody. But so yeah, back to my original. Collaborating and compromise. This is for a relationship that we're trying to build where there's equal respect. I mean, there might have been some arguing, might have been some disagreements, but there's not physical abuse. Nobody's getting hurt. Nobody's getting called names. We're trying to build each other up, and we know deep down that even though we fight and we argue, we really want what's best for each other. So that's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of relationship I'm talking about, okay? Emotions and conflict. So I thought this was funny. Hopefully you can see this online, but if you can, it's just a Mel with a bunch of different pictures, and some of the pictures he's happy, sometimes he's like, surprised and scared. So there's a bunch of different stuff going on. But emotions and conflict, wow. When we are highly emotional, whether it's super happy or super angry or super sad or, totally ecstatic, that type of conflict is going to be affected by that emotion. So just remember that. It's kind of like when I was talking about if you have a conflict and you need to resolve it, but yet maybe you've been drinking or maybe you just took your medication and you need to go to sleep. You can't deal with it right now because you're not on your best. You're not at your best right now. Same with emotions. If you feel yourself to be in a very dramatic, and I don't mean dramatic making fun of anybody, I'm just meaning dramatic in the sense that you're heightened, your emotion is heightened at that time. If you find yourself in that state, trying to resolve conflict or continuing to stay in that conflict can be extremely challenging because you're just going to add fuel to the fire. So it might be where you say, again, you have to say this because you can't expect someone else to do this. You can only work on you, okay? So you might say something specifically like, hey, you know what, I remember the I statements as opposed to the you statements. So listen, I know that I'm very upset, okay? I'm sad, I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm frustrated. I need to cool off, okay? I need to take some time, just gather my thoughts, breathe a little bit, relax, get some water, go for a walk. I need to do a few things, and then I feel like I can come better prepared to talk to you and resolve this conflict. So I hope that makes sense. I'm getting the hiccups, and I apologize. I hope that makes sense, okay? So if you have heightened emotions, try and step away and see if you two can come back at a better time when it's not so emotional, okay? So that's a good way to work on conflict resolution too. And again, if we're under the influence of a substance that has, some impairment involved in it, whether it be alcohol or another type of substance, if we're under the influence of any type of substance that can have some mind-altering things going on, we might not be at our best to resolve conflict at that time. So that's something we have to consider. The bright side of conflict. We grow and we mature. So even though conflict can be super frustrating and even can be irritating and something we might not want to do, if used correctly and if we put in the right variables and the right dynamics, we can grow from it, and that's amazing. It's amazing to look back at where we used to be and where we are now. It's kind of like when you were young, right? I don't know how old you are now, but when you were really young, when you look back at like being maybe 10 or 11 years old and how you spoke or how you acted with friends, right? And you compare that to now and you're like, wow, I'm so not who I used to be, right? Well, you are going to continually grow and continually change. And even if you do absolutely nothing in all these treatment sessions, there's things that are going to happen to you because you are hearing it, you're absorbing it, you're watching it, there's videos that we're going to be seeing, there's worksheets we have, there's just different types of tools that you're going to be exposed to, and it's going to be impossible for you not to grow. So you will grow. So that's what's super exciting about all of this. Okay, so what I want to do now is everybody pull out their worksheet. I'm just going to go through it. This is something, again, I don't ever have anybody volunteer to speak in group because of the fact that a lot of this is confidential for themselves. And I don't want anybody to ever feel uncomfortable or like they have to do something. So please know that this is just for your own benefit. When you take out the session 2 conflict resolution worksheet, or if you're watching online, open it up and it's a PDF file. You can just open it up and you can read it. If you want to print it out, that's awesome. Print it out, write on it. If you're keeping, hopefully with all the worksheets, you'll have a desire to want to get a notebook. I know some of you here have it. Get a little notebook and put this in there, and then you have week 1 or session 1, session 2, session 3, and you have all the stuff that you learned, and you can go back on it and look on it. And if anybody ever asks you questions, you have so much new information you can share with them. Because remember, and I'm going to say this over and over throughout our 20 hours of treatment, we learn really good when we're teaching other people. Okay, so I became a lot of who I am because I do these groups and I do treatment and I do education and I teach at university. So I continue to absorb the information and I stay current with what's new and present as far as research goes. So that's very beneficial for me. And plus, I realize that I have things that need to be dealt with too. And I want to be healthy in my relationship. I want to be healthy in my marriage. I want to be healthy for my children and my friends. And I want to be a healthy daughter, a healthy wife. I want to be those things. And that's something that I strive to be. And in order to do that, I have to work on my inconsistencies. I have to look at where maybe I'm not communicating the best or there's some kind of glitches going on in my relationships and how can I get better at them. So I love doing things like this. So the conflict resolution, how to effectively manage difficult conversations. So this worksheet is designed to help you resolve conflict through the use of effective communication. Use it to guide your actions in ways that produce a peaceful solution in times of disagreement. So first, let's take a look at a conflict that you're facing using the stop, think, act model. So stop. So immediately you want to stop, right? And you want to breathe. And you want to calm down. Now you're ready to actually accurately look at the problem at hand. So you might need to take a few breaths, right? And there's lots of good breathing techniques out there. We're going to try some when we do some coping skills and stuff. So you'll learn some in some sessions. But you really have to find what works for you. Because some people, deep breathing might make them a little lightheaded and doesn't make them feel well. Sometimes they need to do a little bit more of the deep breathing in order to feel better. So it's all about you. You is what matters for yourself, right? So you have to find what works for you. I'm here just to teach a bunch of stuff and to make sure that you're getting a whole bunch of information in this treatment, and then you take what works for you, okay? So stop, breathe, and calm down. Think. You're going to ask yourself, what exactly is the problem? Is this really a problem, and why? Is it my problem? Does it need immediate attention? What do I want out of it? What is my goal? What might I be assuming, right? So maybe it seems like a problem, but maybe I've made an assumption that might not even be right. And when I step back and I actually look at it, I can figure that out. What might be another person's point of view? Ooh, that's a good one, right? Or learning to look at what other people are thinking and put their perspective into our situation as well. What are my options? What are the potential consequences of each option? And what is the best choice here? So we've stopped, we breathe, we took some breaths, we're calming down, we're actually thinking, we're not necessarily saying this out loud, but we're thinking about it, we're asking ourselves, what's going on here? Is this something that I really have to be a part of? Do I really want to deal with this? Is this something that even needs to escalate? Can I resolve this in a better way, right? Thinking, put it into perspective, and then you're going to act. You're going to take action and responsibly for that action. You want to evaluate your action and the outcome, and what can you learn from this? And then you want to think, does the problem still exist? If no, learn from your experience. If yes, start again. Okay? So as you practice these, again, I don't expect you to memorize anything or have this down pat by tomorrow, but as you practice something like this, just like if you practice breathing and other types of coping skills, they become more natural. So when you begin to put this into perspective and you begin to practice this communication and how to communicate more effectively and better, you're going to just naturally find yourself doing this, whether it's a conflict or just regular everyday life. It can be applicable to work. It can be applicable to school. No matter your situation, it can apply to home, right? We want to stop. We want to think, and then we will act. So we have given ourselves time to calm down. We've given ourselves time to rationalize what the situation is. And then, of course, we can decide what we need to do and what the best case scenario is. So we got some acronyms. I love acronyms because it's amazing that you think an acronym is silly and then one day you're like finding yourself using an acronym. So if you've determined there is indeed a conflict that needs to be resolved, here's some additional clues on how to resolve it. So the clues here is the acronym. So C, communicate promptly, assertively, and respectfully. Initiate a private conversation and share your perspective and your goals. Remember, talk to people, not about people, okay? So we don't want to talk behind their back. We don't want to talk about them to somebody else. If we have an issue and there's a concern, we need to respectively approach that person. So we need to first C, communicate promptly, okay? So clue, the C is communicate promptly. Then we have the L, listen to the other person's point of view. That might be something we're not always used to doing. But you want to allow them to speak without interrupting them, okay? Don't have a hidden agenda or judgment, and then you want to reflect what you hear to clarify what they were saying. So when you practice reflective listening, you are basically summarizing and repeating what they said to make sure that you understood it correctly, okay? So when you hear somebody speak and they tell you, gosh, they talked for a couple minutes, then if you're paying attention, you should be able to kind of summarize that or reflect that back to them to make sure that you understood it correctly. And that's going to do a few things. They're going to be blown away that you're listening to them, and it's also going to be powerful if for some reason you misunderstood something and they can sit back and they can clarify that. And they're going to be, actually, they're going to have some respect too for the fact that you are really putting yourself out there and making yourself vulnerable and trying to understand them better. So C, communicate. L, listen. U, understand their perspective. Practice empathy. There's that word again, empathy. Practice empathy. Help me understand your point of view. Also discuss one issue at a time. Get the facts and clarify assumptions. So maybe there's a whole list of stuff you want to talk about. Maybe there's a whole list of stuff that you feel you need to get off your chest. Write it down. Write it down and decide where and prioritize it. What needs to be talked about right now and what can you guys address later? I'm not saying not to resolve your issues or to sweep them under a mat, because that's definitely not the kind of person I am. And I definitely don't think that that's a healthy way to communicate in any relationship. But you definitely need to focus on one thing at a time, okay? E, explore options and solutions. Brainstorm to generate options, choose a solution that works for you both, and then act on it, okay? So again, this might be a little bit challenging if you are in a relationship with someone who has not yet began the work in their life that you are doing. Even though I know most people say, well, I didn't want to be here, I'm forced to be here, I'm ordered to be here, the MDD made me be here, right? The judge made me be here, my probation officer made me, I've heard it all. But guess what? It doesn't matter who made you be here, okay? I don't care why you're here or who made you be here. You're here and you're going to be affected by this. And this is going to be extremely powerful for your journey, okay? S, so how did it go? Evaluate how it went, then move on or plan next steps. What did you learn? So clues, communicate, listen, understand, explore, and realize, so how did it go, okay? On the second page, we have how to effectively manage difficult conversations. So if you're stuck wondering what to say in the face of conflict, try this. Starting the conversation with, and here we go again with an I statement. I want to talk to you about something that I'd appreciate it if you would first listen to what I have to say, and then I will do the same for you, okay? So you're basically putting out there, look, I need to tell you something. I want to say it from start to finish. Listen to me, and then I'll listen to you, okay? State the problem. I've noticed or I feel because, and what I want is this. So again, they're powerful I statements again, all right? And then of course you need to gain the understanding. Help me understand your point of view, what's going on, what's that like for you? And then of course we reflect and we paraphrase, just like we were talking about. What I hear you saying is that you feel tired when you get home from work, and it's horrible to see so many dishes in the sink. I feel like you are tired. You worked a long day, so you kind of put it into a different perspective. Instead of going at them with, "You're just lazy when you get home from work. You don't want to do anything because you worked all day." Well, guess what? I worked all day too, right? So we have to paraphrase it differently. We reflect on what they're saying. We paraphrase it so they know that we know what they're saying and that we're actually listening. And maybe we don't always get it right. Maybe we do misunderstand. But the fact that we're willing to sit there and put it out there, and if we made a mistake, allow that person to tell us we made a mistake, that's huge, okay? That's really big. You want to move towards action. Given what we just talked about, what are some possible solutions that could work for both of us, right? So again, moving into the collaboration, maybe putting some compromising variables out there. Again, not compromising your self-worth or your safety, but if there's something like, hey, you know what, we both work till 5 during the week, I can do the dishes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Do you want to do them Thursday, Friday, and Saturday? You know, there's a way to compromise in a healthy way. So here's some conflict, and this is so, I love these. These are some conflict resolutions, do's and don'ts, all right? And this is how we're going to kind of wrap up today. Just want to make sure my little voice amplifier does not fall down. I apologize if it does. All right, so some do's. Do communicate face-to-face. Don't text message. Now, texting is not horrible. I don't mind if you text. Of course, texting can be great if you're at work or you're in a quiet place and you can't call somebody. But a conflict should never try to be resolved through text messaging, and I hope we all know that. So do communicate face-to-face. Do manage your own emotions. Remember, you're in control of you, not anybody else. You can't control what they're thinking, what they're saying, or what they're going to do, or how they're going to respond. You can only control you. Use language that is understood, and make sure you guys are communicating in language that you guys both get. And if you need to have some type of an interpreter going on, get the interpreter. Figure out how to communicate so you both understand. Recognize and embrace differences. Understand your interests and perspectives of self and others. Act sooner rather than later, unless there's some kind of impairment going on, or unless your emotions are super heightened. If you have some super heightened emotions going on, you might not want to act right now, right? You might specifically need to wait a little bit. Wait until you're not as impaired, or wait till the next day to let everybody kind of calm down and not be super emotional. Actively listen and pay attention. Focus on the present problem, not something that happened years ago or last week, even though, you know, it is important to address things. But if you guys start addressing stuff now and you start communicating better, you're not going to have all that back time of problems from weeks and months ago. You're not going to have that because you're going to resolve these issues here and now. So be present, be clear, and be direct. Be honest, genuine, and respectful. Again, assert yourself. It's the best way to communicate. Be aware of your body language, right? You don't want to look all like you're not paying attention, or that you're bored, or that things could be different, you know, if you weren't in this conversation. So you definitely want to be aware of what's going on with yourself, okay? Convey the value of your relationship. If this relationship means something to you, let that person know. Let that person know by the way you talk to them, and let that person know by the way that you are standing there, by the tone in your voice, by your empathy, okay? Now some don'ts. Don't wait or avoid the issue. That's how we get things from weeks ago that are still coming up. Don't assume. We all know what happens when we assume, right? We make a out of you and me, so we don't want to assume. Don't get defensive. Don't interrupt when somebody's talking. Don't ignore their feedback, even though it might be harsh and it might not have been something you wanted to hear. Don't completely ignore it. Think about it later on. And maybe you're not going to do everything they said, but think about the feedback. Don't argue feelings, judge, or criticize. Don't use put-downs or sarcasm. So we have to be very aware of what we're saying. And if you tend to be a sarcastic person, or you use words that can be a little bit more on the aggressive side, make changes. That's not a strong way to communicate. Now, I'm not saying you can't joke around and you can't have that, but sarcasm, harsh words, those are all very powerful, and they can be off-putting. So if that's the kind of personality you have, think about making some changes. And I'm not trying to be rude. I've been there before. We have to make some changes to better ourselves. Don't rely solely on verbals or nonverbal, okay? So kind of put them both together. You know what, a person could be like this and totally be listening to you, and maybe they just have a headache. Maybe they're just tired and worn out. Maybe they're just tired and worn out, right? Or maybe they are, they're ready to go home and sit down. So don't just take that all for, oh my goodness, that person hates me, we didn't resolve anything. Listen to both of it. Did they communicate with you? Were they verbally saying something that made sense, okay? So you guys apply that too. Don't discuss the problem with others that aren't even associated with the issue. Don't get all passive aggressive and put something on Facebook, update your Facebook status about how, so-and-so, or not even so-and-so, you usually don't even mention the name when you're passive aggressive. But whoever you're talking about in a Facebook post, if you're being passive aggressive, they generally know who it is. Or what happens is somebody else thinks it's them and then they get scared. So don't do that, okay? Don't discuss the problem with others, not even on social media. It's between you and that person. If you're a person that prays, pray about it. If you're a person that meditates, meditate on it. If you're a person that journals, journal about it. There's so many other things to do other than go and talk about it behind somebody's back or talking about it, and trying to get other people to get mad at somebody. Not a cool thing. That's way junior high, and we should really all be above that by now. Don't stop communicating. So remember, communication is powerful, and it's something we have to continue to do, both verbally and non-verbally. So communication is huge, so incredibly huge. Okay, so we're going to watch live now together in this room. We're going to watch a couple videos, and if you're online and you have your PDF open, you want to print it out, take some notes on it, put it into your folder. Hopefully you have a fun little folder going on about the changes you're making. Hopefully you're really taking this serious. Now, you're going to have to watch these videos on your own. They are in your session online. You will simply click on them, and you'll have to watch them entirely in order to get to session 3. So just make sure you complete all the videos in every session, and you'll be fine. You will succeed on to the next. If for some reason you're having glitches or technical issues, just let us know. We'll help you figure it out. It's not a huge deal. It happens. Sometimes it's even just a matter of clearing your cookies, is what they call it. I'm not huge into that. I don't really know what that means. But I know that often I'm told, hey, you better clear your cookies. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. But I'm learning and I'm trying to be more aware of that because apparently, the web and the internet and technology, it wants to have, kind of wants to have a clean house. So you might have to do something like that. But whatever it is, we'll figure it out for you and we'll help you along the way. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video now, and you can move on to the next videos that are in the session. And then when you're done, you'll move on to session 3. For everybody else, we're going to continue on.